Welcome in episode 20 of the St0ner Sports Radio podcast. Joining me once again this week is Cole Murphy. We are talking everything in the sporting world, covering every bit and piece. We're going to go over the Big 12 schedule getting released. We'll be doing one conference per week. We'll be going through the games and telling you where we think your team is going to lie. Big 12 has been waiting for this to happen. We'll go over what this means as OU and Texas are still on the schedule. We'll go through and give you where we think these teams are going to end and tell you how many teams at the end of this we think will be ranked in the top 25 when the season comes to a conclusion. And then we will go ahead and talk about the Super Bowl. We got a couple episodes to talk about it, so we'll go ahead and give our picks because, we like to be ahead of the game here. So we'll give you our picks and everything as far as Super Bowl is concerned. And we will take a look at the sports book from last week and our locks of the week. How are you doing today, Mr. Murphy?
We're doing good, man. I think we did pretty good on the Super Bowl picks. I think we both picked it right, so that was good.
Yeah, we did. So both of us got that right. I'm looking at it right now. Both picks coming through for us. So 2-0 in that respect.
Yeah.
Love to see that. So you improved to 40 and 44 you improved to 42 and 44 on the year. I improved to 50 and 36 on the year, and we only have one game to pick. So all the money is going into this prediction this week for the sports book. It'll be the Kansas City Philadelphia game, and then we'll give you our other two locks of the week. That will be NBA games. On our locks of the week, we did okay. Of course, we had the playoff games that we both got right, but we missed both of our NBA picks. Cole had the Celtics covering the 7 against the Lakers. That game ended up going overtime, and the Celtics got the win by 4, so that didn't happen. The Mavericks, I picked them to cover against Utah, and they didn't cover by a point. Utah wins 108-100, so yeah. I got screwed on that one by one basket. But same with Cole. Cole got screwed by one basket. If the Celtics hit another 3, then we're not talking about missing these games. So not bad on the NBA. We're 1-1 or something like that, 2-1, or 1-2, something like that with the NBA. So not terrible. We'll get better as this season progresses. So let's go ahead and just jump right into this, right? So Big 12 schedule gets released. OU and Texas still on this. So we have 14 teams.
Mm-hmm.
In conference this season, but not everybody plays everybody, Cole. Not everybody is going to get a taste of every single opponent like we have with the 10 teams that we've been accustomed to these past couple years. What was your thoughts, and what did you find that was kind of weird with some of this? Because for me, the weird thing for me was Oklahoma State only plays one Texas school, and that's Houston. They don't play Texas Tech, they don't play Texas, they don't play Baylor, and they don't play TCU. So they only play Houston as their only school they play in Texas. So, probably an upside for them, but that was kind of a weird thing for me. Did you have anything just stick out to you, or was it just the fact that we're looking at 14 teams right here?
No, that's definitely weird, not having OSU play but one Texas school that wasn't even in the conference last year, so that's definitely odd. But I would say, I don't know, I'm just surprised that they actually let 14 teams in and then didn't transfer them already to the SEC. I didn't think, at least until the year that they were supposed to join the SEC, I didn't think that they were going to let the other teams in. And I thought if they were going to let the other teams in, I thought they were at least going to let OU and Texas go and at least be in some of the conference games, or at least a non-conference game in the SEC. But I mean, Texas does play Alabama, but I mean, definitely weird having 14 teams this year. So it should be exciting. Actually, it seems like it's going to be a once in a lifetime, obviously, season, but it should be a good season. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be one of those seasons where this conference could cannibalize itself, or it could end up being very top heavy. So let's just go kind of like through this as well as we can. Let's go ahead and start with yours. So we went through the schedule before we started, and we kind of picked our games, and we did it kind of quickly, but at the same time, I think it's better to go with your gut early on before the season starts. We got tons of time here than it is to sit here and analyze, because there are things that are going to change. Injuries are going to take place in the offseason. You're going to have people leave due to misconduct. You're going to have things happen. That happens with most college teams. Not everybody is going to make it after the spring game all the way until the fall. That's just kind of how it works when you have so many guys on a roster. So let's start with Texas, right? You have Texas going 11-1. Their only loss happening week 2 against Alabama. They go
Mhm.
9-0 in conference. They beat OU in the Cotton Bowl again for the second year in a row. That's what you have down here. Tell me a little bit more about Texas and kind of what you see this team being with Quinn Ewers and Xavier Worthy coming back. No Bijan Robinson, but they've got kind of a running back by committee. They got some recruits coming in, so it's not going to
Yeah,
be as in shambles as people might think. And with Arch Manning sitting right behind Quinn Ewers, if he gets hurt, you've got someone that people feel very
solid
comfortable
backup.
taking snaps. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons why they do have Arch coming in, but also I saw a bunch of the recruiting and stuff. They got some good recruits coming over with them making the SEC jump, and then they just their defense has already improved. And then I just think with Quinn Ewers actually having his year back there, like obviously not injured, he's coming in like fresh and already that year of experience. I think he's going to really be controlling that offense, and I think that's something Texas has been looking for a while, a quarterback that they haven't had. So, and then like you're saying, even if he goes down, they got Arch, so like that's a good quarterback situation there. But yeah, their offensive weapons, like you're saying, they already had some running backs lined up. I know they have some athletes out there, are down there in Austin, and then especially Xavier Worthy being as good of a receiver as he is. I just see them scoring a lot of points, and I see their defense keeping other teams points down to where they're obviously scoring more and winning. So that's just why I'm such a big hook 'em this year. But I mean, who knows? There could be injuries and they could lose. But I mean, I see them winning the whole thing, especially with them going into the SEC with OU. I have high hopes for them and the Sooners, so that's why I got them so high
Yeah, I
up.
mean, I mean, this is something we agree on. I mean, we are identical with our first pick here in the Big 12 with Texas. Um, Now this could obviously switch to OU if they win in the Cotton Bowl. That's kind of what it comes down to, is what it looks like with these schedules. Is if OU beats Texas, then it'll be OU ahead of Texas. If it's Texas, then it'll be Texas obviously ahead of everybody else. Um,
Right.
so I think that we're kind of seeing eye to eye on that and noting that the Cotton Bowl is kind of like the way of which the Big 12 will go. And I think this also kind of sets up for Texas and OU to have a lot of confidence going into the SEC. Because if you finish 1-2 in the Big 12 and you're going to the SEC, that's better than this year where you guys were kind of middle of the pack and
Yeah.
then leaving. So,
Right. It's a lot better look for sure.
um, so let's talk about OU, right? So we already talked about kind of a couple weeks ago how um, OU had 5 losses, right? But a
Hmm.
lot of or 6 losses, but 5 of those were one possession games. So
Yeah.
so you're talking about an offense that is literally looking for one more possession to score, or a defense that's looking to stop one possession from a team that they just probably should have but didn't. Um,
Right.
with Brent Venables in the recruiting class you guys have, I think we both agreed that they are probably one possession better than they were last year, which is why we both have them going 11-1, with their only loss being to Texas. Now let's talk about that. Why Texas and why the L, right?
Yeah, I mean, just of course, Cotton Bowl, OU Texas, Red River. Like, I mean, at least last year they got smoked. But I mean, even if Dylan Gabriel was in, I think it would have been closer. Yes, but I still had Texas coming out on top, and that's just last year. Even though OU's defense is definitely improved, just like Texas, I don't think OU's offense is powerful enough to outscore Texas in that Red River. And you know that's always close. It's going to be close, and it's always typically a high scoring game if things line up and there's no injuries. But I mean, I just see Texas outscoring OU. I think it's still going to be close, but I mean, should be a good game there at the Red River. But yeah, I'm gonna take Texas there for sure.
Yeah, and if you don't count the crazy Caleb Williams comeback, I mean Texas could be
Yeah,
on their way to winning 3 straight. I mean,
true.
you look at the way that game started for OU, getting down the way they did, with Spencer Rattler taking snaps back there, and then you're like, oh well, just throw the kid out there. What do we got to lose? Come all the way back, you win. You
Yeah.
feel good about that, and then of course the rest is history. Caleb Williams looks like Jesus Christ in a football uniform, and does some amazing things, and then leaves with Lincoln Riley and does amazing things at USC. I mean, we
Yeah.
we kind of saw that kind of being a very unusual situation where your backup quarterback ended up being way better than your starter could probably ever dream to be.
Yeah.
which doesn't happen very often, by the way. But it happened for TCU last year with Chandler Morris. They decided, the injury, put Max Duggan in, and he led them where he led them, and as far as he probably possibly could.
Yeah.
And I don't think Chandler Morris would have given you a better chance to win a lot of those games. So I think that was also, a decision that takes a lot of guts as a coach to put a backup in and roll with him not only for one game but the rest of the way. We'll
Yeah.
see how that works out for West Virginia with Garrett Green. He beats OU at home, and that was a big comeback win for West Virginia. A really ugly loss for OU. But he looked
Right.
like a very mobile kind of dual threat guy. So we'll see how that works for West Virginia going forward this next season. But getting back to your point, I mean, this is a very good Texas team. Have never been terrible. It's
Mm.
just been when Ewers not playing well. You go
Got
back to that
injured.
Oklahoma State loss. On the road they were up big in that game and then lost that game due to him just not throwing the ball very well late and making some mistakes that he didn't make the rest of the season.
Right.
And that was kind of the storyline there. As far as OU is concerned, they never really got their defense kind of aligned. And I
Hmm.
felt like Dylan Gabriel was not as accurate as he was at UCF coming to the Big 12, but I think that has to do with the level of defenses that he's looking at. I mean, this isn't
Hmm.
Conference USA or wherever you're coming from.
Yeah.
I mean, these defenses are better than that, and I think that really kind of screwed with him because players are getting to spots faster. You have to get that ball out a little quicker.
Yeah.
In this conference, and I think that's where you'll see the improvement with OU offensively is he'll be able to get that ball out quicker and he'll be more comfortable with the speed of the game because I think it is a little bit of a notch up for this
Yeah.
conference compared to what he was used to, and the familiarity with the playbook, familiarity with the coordinators,
Hmm.
a lot of things leaning pro Oklahoma in that respect.
I'm
But
just
I
worried
agree.
about his. I'm just worried about OU's weapons this year. I don't know. I mean, of course they have the Stoops coming back. And he's really just a good
And
possession guy. He's not really the guy. He's a great receiver. Don't get me wrong. I'm not throwing any shots at him. He's a phenomenal receiver, but I just don't know. And the reason why I have them over Texas is if they had Mims coming back, I would have OU probably above Texas. But I don't know of any really big targets. I mean, we do have Stogner, I guess, coming back for the year, but like he's just a tight end. And who's our deep threat guy? Like we had
Farouk.
Marquise Brown and like all those guys who we could really open that play action up and go deep and get those deep balls and score. But I mean, I just don't know yet. And there could be a guy that comes out of nowhere, but who's going to be OU's deep threat receiver guy, the
It's
big name OU receiver guy that OU always has? I don't
it's
know who that
it's
is yet.
it's got to be Jaleel Farouk. It's got to be Jaleel Farouk.
Farouk.
I mean, he's the return guy. He's their speed
Okay.
guy. He
Is
was
that
the
number
guy that was
17?
what?
Or he's number what number is he?
Uh, nine,
That's
nine or
okay,
nine.
9.
Some. It's a single digit, I think.
I don't remember him. I was like, I
Um,
vaguely remember him.
well, that's the thing. He came up in the most when Mims wasn't open, it was Farouk.
It was Farouk.
Screen
Okay.
pass out to Farouk. He's their track star. He's their equivalent to
Okay.
Xavier Worthy, as
Gotcha.
far as the speed guy. That's
Okay.
kind of, and he's gonna have to take that role of that guy. With Mims being
Yeah.
gone, he's gonna have to step up. And if it's not
Mhm.
him, you got to look at Gavin Freeman. Gavin Freeman,
Mhm.
the little white kid that they do all the reverses with, he's got some speed. I just think his route running needs improvement, but he could
Yeah.
be. See, he's faster than Drake Stoops, but Drake Stoops is a better route runner, and that's how
Right.
he gets open. He's got that Wes Welker
Mhm. Quickness.
middle of the field, tough catch in traffic, Julian Edelman
Mhm.
kind of style of play. And
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what they'll use offensively. But the big thing for me is going to be the running backs. They've got some good running backs coming in.
Mhm.
I really like some of the younger guys that they've got that they played with in the Florida State bowl game. I thought that Gavin Sawchuk looked pretty good. He's going to be a sophomore next year.
Mhm.
He looked a little shifty. He's speedy, a really highly recruited guy. So they're going to have some weapons that are untested, and they're going to, like you said, need guys to step up that were playing minor roles to Mims and know, hey, like, we're going to be looking for you to be able to get past this safety. We're going to be able to, with play action, we're looking for you deep because you're the guy that runs a 4.340.
Right.
That's going to be the thing. So I agree. I mean, I think Texas and OU are your top two teams coming in this season. I really don't have a tough time arguing with that at all. So let's move on to number 3, where we kind of have a big gap. in where we think teams are going to be. You have Texas Tech here at 9-3, seven
Yeah.
and two. Um, and they're not a bad team. Um, like you said, they've got some good assets as well. Coming back, Morton looked really good. Of course, he got hurt late, and that kind of hurt Texas Tech. But he was the third stringer. Came in and
Yeah.
played very well against Oklahoma State. Continued to play well when he was put in games. Threw for 400 yards against Oklahoma. But I mean, really, who didn't? But I mean, you get what I'm saying. I mean, he looked comfortable back there, and it looked like one of those like Baker Mayfield guys where it's like he wasn't
Yeah.
starting, but he could turn into something that's very tangible and good. Um,
Right.
for them. I'm not saying he's Baker Mayfield good, but I'm saying the story is kind of similar because Baker Mayfield came in against SMU originally when he was at Texas Tech, played well, got hurt with the ankle injury, didn't come back, then transferred to OU, then became a Heisman winner. Very unusual story, but when he was in that SMU game and I was watching that game live when it was happening, I was like, this
Mhm.
guy is good. I was like, I don't know why he's
Yeah.
the backup. He looks good. And that's what I
Right.
said when Morton came in the game. I was like, I don't know why he's the backup. He's got some wheels and he can throw dots. But
Right.
here's the thing. I said the same thing about Alan Bowman, but Alan Bowman was way too injury prone. So if he's injury prone like Alan Bowman, that's going to be a problem. If he can stay healthy, I think, like you said, it's not impossible for Texas Tech to be looking at 9-3.
Yeah.
But they're going to need some help from teams that were really good last year to fall off.
Mhm.
Um, uh,
I mean, Texas Tech defense is good. They were like one of the top defenses in the Big 12 last year, so
mhm,
this is why I have them so high.
yep.
And then they're only getting better. They got all those returning guys, and then of course you're saying with Morton, like he's a good quarterback, and their offense has been clicking, and I don't think it's gonna stop. So I mean, they're gonna continue to win.
Yeah, so that's what you've got. I've got Texas Tech 10th
Oh,
in the Big 12.
oh,
I just don't and the thing is this is I may have forgotten about the defense a little bit. I've got them going 3-9 and 2-7 in conference. Um
jeez.
but here's the thing. So the reason I do is because I don't believe that Morton is going to be able to sustain his level of play. I think it's going to be a roller coaster. I think he's going to have good weeks and he's going to have bad weeks. Because when
True.
you're already not the starter and you've only played a sprinkling of games like he did last year, you're still going to need this year to get comfortable if you're healthy to play 8 or 9 or 10 games. I mean you're going to need to still kind of settle into that position, especially when you're not
True.
coming into the school thinking that you're the fucking guy. I mean, like, I
True.
mean, because I mean, if you come to a D1 school and you're the third string guy, are you really, studying film as hard as the first and second string? Are you really, doing the things you need to do to move up on the depth chart? Fuck no, fuck no.
Yeah.
You're the last thing you're thinking is I'm going in this football game. I mean, you might for the first 3 weeks, study film really hard because if it's a blowout, they might put you in the
Hmm.
fourth quarter or something. But I don't think that he's gonna be in the same position I feel like Dylan Gabriel was last year. I think he's
Hmm.
going to be up and down, kind of inaccurate, kind of wild, but he's also going to make plays that make you go, "Oh, that's a D1 quarterback right there."
Gets injured.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see if he stays healthy. I mean, I don't have a problem with you flipping the script and going 9-3 with me going 3-9, literally the opposite of you. But I mean, it's like one of those things where it's like it really depends on how well he plays and how many guys they lost on that defense. Because I don't know if they've got a lot of guys returning on that defense or they
Hmm.
don't. If they do, then they'll be decent, like you said, and they could definitely fight for that third or fourth spot. If he's not as good as he looked and he can't stay healthy or he just looks kind of iffy here and there, if he looks more like Garrett Green than he does Dylan Gabriel, they're in trouble.
Hmm.
That's kind of where I gauge this.
True.
And I think that's why I kind of have them a little low. Number 4, you've got BYU. I don't really have a problem with this. BYU is 5 in mine, so we're not really seeing too far off eye to eye. You have them at 8-4. I believe I have them at uh, I have them at 8-4 as well. But in conference, you've got them going 6-3, and I have them going. Well, we have identical records here, but the reason is uh, I have Kansas State winning a couple more games
Yeah.
uh, than them. So I think that's why they're just right behind. I think it just comes down to a tiebreaker in my scenario, but yours is more out front. So you have BYU at 4. What do you think the Cougars kind of bring to this conference and bring to the table? Obviously, we think they're going to have an 8-win season, so they're going to bring something. Um, should teams like OU and Texas be scared traveling up to Utah to play them?
Most definitely. They have they've always, I mean, not always, but at least for the past couple of years now, they have a solid team. They get good, solid recruits. They're not the best 5 4-star
And
guys,
they're old as
but they're
shit.
yeah, they're bringing in like grown ass men that like, and they're all built like they're stocky, which means, I mean, like I had just said, they have a great coaching staff, and I know they do. Like, even though they did have a couple of losses last year, they didn't do great, but like they always find a way to win football games. They have a good coaching staff, a good strength and conditioning program. All their guys are built, and I like their players in general. I know they have some guys coming back this year that are definitely some solid football players. So I think I can see them. I can see a lot of teams in the Big 12 taking them lighter and being like, "Oh, it's BYU. Like, it's just this is gonna be an easy game." But like, they're coming to play, and those guys are actually really good. Not really good, but good football players. So I think teams like that should be worried. I think they're still gonna beat them, but like BYU is gonna win more games than people think this year, just because of they're a solid program. Like, and that's what people don't understand. What was their record even just last year? I know they went above 500.
Yeah, I can take a gander for you.
Yeah, they're a solid program. That's my only reasoning having them up there. They might be a little high. I could see them being
Yeah, they went
a
8 and
5.
5 last season.
Yeah, so
So I mean,
I could see them being a 5 or a 6, but I mean, they might be a 4, so we'll see.
yeah, I mean they're not a bad squad. Like I said, they got a lot of guys coming back. Obviously, as you said, these are 23, 24-year-old guys. I mean, these are
Maybe
they,
26,
yeah,
27.
they go on that mission trip and they age. Those Mormons keep them in school for a while. So,
Yeah,
but you have the same thing kind of going on with BYU and Baylor. They've got identical records, but it comes down to head, and
yeah.
BYU takes that fourth spot over Baylor at 5 for you. But you have Baylor at 8 and 4. Um, I have Baylor. You're gonna love this. I have Baylor at 5 and 7.
Hey.
I have them at 9, right ahead of Texas Tech in conference. I have them going 3 and 6 in
Hey.
conference, and the reason why is this is the offense, right? The defense was good last year for Baylor, but they couldn't score the football, and that was
Yeah.
kind of the problem for them throughout the season, and that's why they looked so mid. Um,
Yeah.
and I think that has a lot of weight when it comes to the Big 12. I mean, you're talking about um, a team that last year, like I said, did not really perform fantastically.
Mhm.
Um, they finished the season last year at 6 and 7. So I mean, 5 and 7, 6 and 7. I mean, really, what's the difference, right? I mean, we're looking at a team that has the right tools defensively, but like I said, offensively doesn't have a lot. Um, you've got them at 8 and 4. I could see some of these games that I picked them losing. Look, we're only 3 games apart here, so I mean, this isn't a big discrepancy as well. In 3 games, you can flip 3 games easily if you have the
True.
momentum going in and stuff. So I can see that flip flopping, but initially for me, I thought there were teams that were a little better than them coming in. What are your thoughts on Baylor going into this season right now?
I mean, Dave Aranda's gonna have his guys ready, and then is that quarterback coming back? I thought that's what I saw.
Yeah, he's coming back. Shapen will be back.
Oh,
Uh,
they had a couple close losses, but like they're all like, and their defense too, of course, with Dave Aranda being the mastermind behind it, like that in the BYU game is going to be the most exciting game I think for the Big 12. I mean, not exciting, but one of a really good game just because Baylor's defense is pretty solid, and then I mean their offense can score too. So I could see them winning a lot of their home games, but when they go on the road, I think that's when they're going to lose. But same with BYU. If they got some teams at home, like they're gonna win. So that's kind of why I have them there at 5. Like solid defense, same as BYU, and then I think that
yeah, I
quarterback
mean,
and for Baylor, he's gonna win a lot of the games for them, and they got a bunch of good little targets as well. So it
yeah.
should be good for sure.
I mean, last year Baylor traveled to BYU and lost in overtime, 26-20.
Hmm.
Um, they had losses at Oklahoma State, West Virginia, and they finished the season on a 3-game losing streak against Kansas State, TCU, and Texas. Um,
Yeah.
but they beat Oklahoma because they seemed to beat Oklahoma in Manhattan. Or they were in Norman this last year, but in Manhattan they seemed to play OU pretty close. Um, sorry, I don't know what they beat OU in Norman. Baylor did, but in Waco they play pretty well. Baylor does.
Mhm.
So I think that will also be a game to look at when that game happens. But I agree. I think if Shapen plays well, that team could turn on their head. Um, and we're not, like I said, 3 games is not super off. At number 6, you've got Kansas State going 7-5, 6-3 in conference. Um, I kind of am on the same page with you with Kansas State. I have them going 8-4 and 6-3 as well. I think the big difference we have is I think maybe a non-con game. I think I picked them to win, that you picked to lose, but
Hmm.
in conference, same record, 6-3. This was also a tiebreaker, which caused Baylor to be above Kansas State, because BYU, Baylor, and Kansas State for you have the identical 6-3 conference record, and it just comes down to
Right.
tiebreakers. So really, any of those teams could switch from 6-4 or 5-4. I mean, that's going to be kind of your
Yeah.
fluctuation throughout the season. I feel like. I mean, these teams could end right here, or they could flip, and BYU could be 6, Kansas State could be 4. It just depends on who wins
Yeah.
those tiebreaker games. Um, I mean, yeah, I have Kansas State, top
Yeah. It's
four.
just they
So,
lost a lot of their little weapons like Deuce and then I
hmm
think a receiver as well. So that's
yeah,
just why I have them. If they had those guys returning, I would have them number 3 in the Big 12. But they lost like a lot of their little weapons. They're still, like I had said with the other teams, they're gonna win those home games. Like Kansas State's one of the best teams at home, but I mean, I just specifically because they lost a couple of those weapons, I see them losing a little bit more and ending up a little more mid this year just because of that. But they're still gonna have a decent year for sure.
yeah. And then number 7, this is kind of another one where we kind of disagree. I've got this team at 11, at number 12 in conference.
Mhm.
You've got them at number 7. It's Iowa State.
I would say, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So Iowa State, you're kind of high on. I feel like you have them 7-5, 5-4 in conference, and I'm looking at them as a team that goes 3-9 and 1-8 in
Yeah.
conference. Um, so what makes you high on the Cyclones coming into this next season?
You could definitely be right. They could be like one of those teams. I can see where you're going with that. I just really just based off last year, I mean, you see they were taking teams and not really being just too light and they were winning some games. So what was it if you could pull the
They
record
went
up from
four
last
four
year?
four and 8 last year. So
They won 4.
yeah, 4-8 was their final record.
And then what
Um,
do I have them at for this season?
7-5. So you just have three. You have them winning 3 more games. So I mean that could be the improvement you could see. I can see
Yeah, I
that.
could see them beating some of those newer teams. I'm not sure if I remember correctly that I could see them beating like the SMU. I could see them beating like a Houston, especially at home. So I think I'm just throwing them a little bit more of those new conference teams, I guess. But yeah, I could see where you're going. That you could most definitely be right. They could be ass as well. So I might be a little too high on Iowa State, but they're always a little bit solid. Everybody usually loses to Iowa State, but I
Yeah,
mean we'll see. I guess.
you've got them beating Houston, which is why even though they have identical conference records for you at 5-4, Iowa State
Yeah,
is above Houston. You have Houston at the 8th spot.
yeah,
I've got Houston at the 8th spot as well. So we're kind of seeing eye to eye on that. I think
yeah.
I had them going 8-4 as well. No,
They
seven
got
and
some
seven.
athletes,
I have them
and
going
they're
seven
gonna
and
make some
five,
noise.
but they still have a good record in conference. I have them going 4-5 in conference. You got them going 5-4. So we're still kind of, but we have them finishing 8th in the same spot. In the 9th spot, you've got Oklahoma State. And this
Mhm.
is another one where we kind of differ. You have Oklahoma State uh, going 7-5, which is not a bad record, but 5-4 in conference. And I have Oklahoma State going 8-4 and 6-3 in conference. So I've got Oklahoma State finishing in the top 6. You've got them finishing at 9th. So tell me kind of your justification for having them lose so many conference games to teams like, uh, for instance, Iowa State,
Yeah,
Kansas State. Obviously OU, they're in Texas, are probably, well, they don't play Texas, but OU is a loss. You've got them losing to Houston, I believe, as well.
mhm.
So I mean,
I'm just
just why aren't you so
they
high
yeah.
on the Cowboys? Explain.
And I hope I'm wrong. It's just mainly because when you lose that many guys off of a team, especially guys that weren't even seniors, like I just don't know really what's going on in Stillwater. I
Hmm
don't know if it's a coaching thing. I don't know if it was just because the players saw a better opportunity somewhere else. So I'm just not sure what's going on in Stillwater. But whenever you see so many transfers in the season, that tells me this might fall on the coaching staff. And then, of course, with all these new guys coming in, you need to build chemistry, and that's so hard to do in just an off season. So I just don't think that they might have some good players coming in and some athletes, but when you lose that many guys, and I'm not sure what the fuck is going on in Stillwater, I just don't see them having the best of years, mainly because they're not going to be moving the ball very well. Their guys are going to be new out there in defense, so they're going to be getting scored on. So that's mainly just my reason behind that. It's just all those guys they
Mm,
lost in this offseason. And of course, not Spencer Sanders not returning that
mm.
hurt, and then having a new quarterback coming in to learn that whole playbook with Mike Gundy. Like, I just think they're going to struggle this season, and I hope I'm wrong, but I think that's where they're headed.
Yeah, new defensive coordinator as well. I mean,
Yeah,
they've got a lot of change, so I can see that. I just
it's
think
going
they're
to be a
more.
rebuild year.
Yeah, I just think they're more talented. I mean, you might be right. The chemistry might not be there. That might be the instance. But I think this is one of those things where they could finish sixth or they could finish ninth. I mean, I could see both of those scenarios happening. If it meshes
Yeah,
well, I see sixth. If it doesn't, you're probably right. Um,
yeah.
Going to the number 10 team, UCF. I've got UCF at 7. You've got them at 10. They're kind of a mystery to me.
Same.
I had them going 7-5 and 5-4 in conference. You've got them going 6-6 and 3-6 in conference. So I mean, we're not seeing too far off here. This is
Mhm.
literally us nitpicking a couple games here and there, but I think we're both kind of on the page of not really knowing how good UCF is going to be coming into this next season. So I don't think we really know enough
Yeah.
yet, and I think that'll be kind of a learning as the season goes, kind of thing. At 11, you've got Cincinnati. I got Cincinnati at 5. So we're definitely on the opposite spectrum here. I think Cincinnati is a decent team, but
Okay.
I don't think they're gonna. I got them going 8-4 and 6-3 in conference, and you have them going 5-7 and 2-7 in conference. So you don't think that they're gonna go through the gauntlet of the Big 12 very well, and I could see that they don't
Yeah.
have a lot of returning talent that really gives you a lot of hope. But some of the games I think that you chose and I didn't choose to make them lose are kind of more of I think that this Big 12 team has more talent than this former Conference American team or whatever has talent wise, and I get that.
Mhm.
But I think once you know you're moving into that conference, you start getting a little bit better recruits and stuff. So I feel like that could
Yeah.
be the direction. Okay, number 12.
I just think it might be an eye-opening year for them, like
Yeah,
you were saying, moving into the Big 12. I just think that it's gonna be such a different level of play that they're gonna have to adjust to that. That's why I have them losing so many
yeah.
games.
I mean, and that's another thing. 7-10 is not that big of a discrepancy.
Yeah,
We're talking 3 games again. I mean, we're pretty much in the same brain here. You're just kind
yeah,
of picking a little bit more Big 12 bias than just overall bias. But
right.
I don't blame you. Is what I'm saying because Big 12 should have better talent than teams coming from those
Yeah,
conferences that are coming in. So I get that. So at number 12, you've got Kansas. I've got them at 13. We both think they're going to be crap. Really not much to say about that. They do have their quarterback coming back. That helps them a little bit, but I mean, I don't think that's enough for them. I think they're just missing too much. Not really
I
much to
agree.
say about that. Agree,
Same.
disagree. Okay. Um, and then last in the conference, we both have West Virginia. We like Garrett Green. I think he's a good quarterback. I just don't think they have anybody else there. And that's
I just
kind
think
of
their
yeah,
defense sucks, and then anytime they get on the road, like I don't think Garrett Green is gonna be able to get any points to outscore
yeah,
another team. That's just why I have them winning nothing
yeah.
because they need help out there.
And here's another one we really disagreed on. I have TCU finishing still
Mhm.
third in this conference next season.
Wow.
I think with those Alabama transfers, a wide receiver they've got coming in, that'll help Chandler Morris a lot. Um,
Yeah.
they've got a couple guys in the transfer portal defensively that came over as well. That'll kind of help them out. I just feel like their schedule kind of gives them that ability. But on your degree, you've got them going 3-9 and 1-8
Yeah.
because of the guys are losing. Do you think that the guys coming in, if you're transferring to TCU and you're not good enough to play at Alabama, you're probably not good in general? Is that kind of where you're going with that? Because you can't make it in
Uh,
Tuscaloosa, you can't make it in Fort Worth. At least not much of a difference.
that's one of the ones I was really unsure about because I did hear about those guys coming in. So I think I will be wrong on this one. But I mean, I'm gonna obviously keep it where it's at,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
because, like I was saying earlier, it's so hard for a team like that to go that far
Hmm.
and have that much success. So now their standard bar level is going to be set so high, and those players on the team are trying to get back to that national championship. So they're going to be going and getting in their head doing way too much. Like they're gonna have so much pressure on them and so much on their back
Yeah,
that it's gonna be hard for them to even just win football
yeah,
games. Mainly with all those guys they lost, but
yeah,
like with them just coming from off a national championship, the bar is set
yeah.
so high,
Hmm.
they're gonna lose games.
Yeah,
So it's just like
yeah, you're right. Well,
that's all.
that's where we have the Big 12 next season. We'll obviously revisit that later. We'll have a new Power Five conference go through next week. So let's talk about the Super Bowl just for a second here.
Mhm.
We'll go ahead and make our picks here, and then we'll get out of here. Kansas City, they're going to be playing Philadelphia. We both got that right. Those games were pretty good. I thought the Kansas City got some favorable calls against Cincinnati late in that one. I think the referees kind of inputted themselves a little bit too much in that game, but you
Yeah.
can't really blame the refs for the missed opportunities that Cincinnati had in that game. I think there was a lot of good passes that Joe Burrow threw that the receivers didn't make the catch. You just had some stuff that happened that was real weird. I mean, that extra down that Kansas City got because they couldn't hear the
Yeah.
referee's whistle and the punt unit was already out on the field. And I can see why Zach Taylor's losing his mind over that. I would lose my mind too. Like, what the fuck? Like, they're about to snap it
Honestly.
and punt it. What do you mean they get to redo third down? I mean,
Right.
granted, it didn't end in any points. They punted it anyways, but it's like just the fact that
Mhm.
they had the opportunity to pick it up
Took the time
again
off.
and stuff like that. I mean, I think that was kind of wild. I thought the push in the back on Patrick Mahomes was the right call. He had both feet out of bounds, but
Right.
you look at the drive before with Joe Mixon. He had 2 feet out of bounds and got drilled, no flag. I mean, but is that
I
the
did not see
advantage
that.
of just being at home? I think that could be kind of one of those
Yeah.
homer calls, but it seemed a little bit more blatant. You had a late hit on Joe Burrow that wasn't called. After he had released the football, which I feel like Pat Mahomes would have got that call. I
Right.
think that's also up and coming quarterback getting shafted just because he's not established enough yet. Even though he got them to the Super Bowl, people think it's a fluke, and I think it's
Yeah.
not. I think we'll have Cincinnati being in the conversation more and more as the years progress if they can keep that unit together.
Of
They've got
course.
a lot of turnover though happening this season. A lot of guys going to free agency, so we'll see how many of those they'll be able to afford coming back. Um,
Mhm.
but right now the line is Philadelphia favored by 1.5.
Mm.
It's a very interesting line. Give me your pick and where are you putting that 260 at, brother? Is it going to be in Mahomes' lap or Jalen Hurts?
Man, this is hard, 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 hard. I don't even think I was ready to give this answer, but oh man. I just think this is Jalen Hurts' year. I think he's gonna come locked in, prepared, and I think he wants this. And ultimately it comes down to the quarterback. Mahomes, yes, he wants it probably just as bad, but I think this is Jalen Hurts' year. I think he's got his team ready all year for it. The way that they played in the conference championship, I think he played great. And if they can keep that offense firing how they were doing, I think it's gonna come down to like a point or so, but you're gonna have that Jalen Hurts ball in his hand, and they're gonna be down that 7 points, 6 or 7 points, and I think he's gonna lead the drive and win. So give me, I'll take the Eagles the -1 right here.
Yeah, I agree. Same thing. I think injury to Brock Purdy really hurt the 49ers against them, and I think that was kind of where the game ended. Once Brock Purdy got hurt and they had to, go with the fourth string quarterback, I think that was kind of the end of the 49ers magic. They couldn't get anything going on the ground game because Philadelphia's defense is pretty good. And I think that's going to
Defense is really
give
good.
Patrick Mahomes a little bit of trouble. Now that ankle is going to be really healed. When you have 2 weeks off, it's gonna be ready. So I'm not worried
Yeah,
about
steroid shots.
yeah, I'm not worried about him hobbling around like I was this last weekend.
Oh, he'll
Um,
be juiced up.
but yeah, I'm picking the birds too. I think we're go birds here. I think it's time
Yeah,
that Jalen Hurts gets that chip after winning the Heisman and people saying he's not an NFL quarterback after his first year. I think
yeah.
this is kind of one of those take that and smoke it, bitch kind of moments.
True.
I think it's time. So. I think we agree on that, and we'll see how that shakes up, and we'll revisit this again next week. But we just wanted to give you a little bit of a preview of kind of where we're leaning right now, and we'll
Yeah.
see if anything develops as that game is going to be in Las Vegas. So we'll see if any players get in trouble or anything like that. Lots of nightlife stuff going on, so we'll see if any of that affects some of the
Sure.
roster or not. We're hoping not, but stuff happens in Vegas, and it stays in Vegas, and until it gets to the media, then it doesn't.
Yeah.
So let's go into our NBA picks for locks of the week. You're at 21 and 27 right now. I'm at 25 and 23. So we're doing a little better. We went 2-1, like I said last week, with the 2 conference championship games and our NBA games. So we'll give you 2 NBA games tonight. I'm going to go ahead and start us off. I'm going to take the Nuggets, -12
Fair
against
enough.
-12 against the Golden State. Golden State kind of in a downward spiral right now. Um, and I think that's kind of where we're looking at right now. My second game, I'm gonna go with um, the Lakers -3 against the Pacers. I think after that win the other night, I think that they're kind of in the driver's seat. Other games I've got, Cole, are Memphis and Cleveland, Miami and New York, Charlotte and Chicago, Dallas and New Orleans, and the Clippers and Bucks.
Let me get the Mavericks Pelicans. I'll take the Mavericks to
Minus,
cover
okay, so
there, and then give
Mavs
me
-4.5 versus NO.
give me the Heat taking care of the Knicks tonight as
Okay,
well.
and the Heat -2 against the Knicks. All right, and those are our locks of the week. This has been episode 20. We're finally at episode 20. Episode 21 next week. Cole, any last words before we get out of here?
No, sir.
All right, keep your sticks on the ice. We'll see you next week.